we'll just go ahead and get started, and if anybody else joins us, they will join in the middle. Thanks everyone for making it. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 5:04 p.m. And for a roll call and attendance, I see myself, Alice Williams, Evelyn, Brandon, Brady, and we have our wonderful advisors, Joey and Jessica. And I see Miss Lola in attendance. And Sean and Nicholas. I'm not.
Hello, yes. I guess I am now running a candidate for VP.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to make any comments or raise your hand. With that, we do need our agenda approval for the agenda for today. So I would like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you so much. We got a motion from Evelyn and a second from Brandon. And then for the approval of minutes from our last meeting on the 27th, I would like to entertain a motion for that approval.
So moved.
Seconded. Jinx.
We got a motion from Evelyn and a tied second there from Brandon and Brady. Thank you very much. I'm not sure who owes who the soda. With that, we head into reports. With myself as chair, I've not had anything to report for this meeting. Joey, do we have any reports from our advisors?
Yeah, the only reports I have is just a couple updates for you all. I know Aaron may be joining us. They're actually out right now, but we're going to try and pop on, but hopefully they will be here. 3 items for you all. Just as a heads up, we do have, besides this meeting, we have 2 more meetings before we're done for the year. And so we have next Thursday and the Thursday after. Not to put any anxiety or stress on anyone of realizing how quickly the end of the quarter is approaching. Since we don't meet during finals week, and often we won't meet that last week for spring quarter because we can't have any new business necessarily presented as well. So if any last things come up, there's always some ability, if we need follow-up from the committee in that last week that you're in service, to be able to do. So we have 2 more meetings coming up. Just as a status update of where we are. After the program reviews this week, we do have, I believe, 13 more. So we'll do kind of 6 and 7 as we're coming up on that. I do also know we've already received 1 supplemental funding request that will be presented next week if they're available. So you all will have that. And there's at least 1 more that I believe will be coming based on communication and outreach about it. So be aware, make sure to review the program reviews in advance. Again, if you all don't have questions, comments, be diligent in it. I don't want us to rush through, but also be mindful of the time. But we are down to the crunch time of things coming up. And so wanted to put that on your all's radar, but also to say you all, and you'll hear this the next 2 meetings as well, but you all have been fantastic this year. If anyone is returning next year, please express interest to ASCWU. I'm going to let Brady make the introduction formally of Nick here in a second, but if anyone's interested in returning, please reach out. If not, please help to let other individuals know about S&A, speak to it. Again, as I've said multiple times, you all are the best advocates and sponsors for what their role is and the importance of this committee. So you'll hear that for 2 more weeks coming up too, but that is all that I got.
Thank you so much, Joey. Brady, do you have anything to share from ASCWU?
Yes, I have lots of things to share. So the executive board and general elections are concluded and the official results are posted on our website. Want to congratulate Nick, who's here with us today. He will be the next vice president. So he'll be serving on this committee next year. As well as Malik Cantu won president. Yari, and I forget her last name, who already works. Evelyn, did you say something? Okay, no worries, sorry. Who already works for Mariah under the Director of Equity and Multicultural Affairs, will be assuming that position next year. Gerardo, I also don't know his last name. I'm horrible with last names. Will be, thank you. Will be the next Director of Student Life and Facilities. And then Charles Johnson will continue as Senate Speaker, and Michelle Carrillo, I think I'm pronouncing that right, will be the Director of Governmental Affairs next year. Sorry for all the butchered names, I apologize. And so with that, also in that election, 2 fees were passed. So the WSA fee will increase from $1 a quarter to $2 a quarter, and the $6 basic needs fee that will largely go in support of the Wildcat Pantry was also passed. Was 112-ish votes, 118, somewhere in there. For the $6 fee, it was around 80 votes for the $10 fee, and then we had a bunch of abstentions, but it passed the $6 one, so that's really exciting. And then I already told you guys about the sub fee increase that the board voted on, with talking about increasements of money. So to give you guys a little purview of what I will be bringing before you in the coming weeks before we finish out. So the executive board of ASCW, in our bylaws, we are supposed to be paid in general equivalents to what other boards are paid by. This year we were paid $16.50 an hour for 19 hours a week, besides the president, who makes 20 hours a week. Each board sets the pay rate for the incoming board to stay concurrent with minimum wage increases and also what our fellow institutions are paying. We have established that every year the board's pay will increase by 18% if needed. And so this board will have an 18% increasement, which will bring them to $18.57. As you can imagine, ASCW's budget does not have that much money in it. Along with most of our other positions are generally paid above minimum wage. All student positions, and with minimum wage jumping over what our base pay rate was, we are also going to increase that. Even if we kept the pay at minimum wage and then the $16.50 that we made this year, we still wouldn't have enough money. So I will be bringing proposals to all of y'all for all of the there's 4 ASCW budgets. And so keep that in mind. I know that we've been talking money a lot this year, but I just wanted to give you guys kind of a heads up that I'll be bringing lots of increasements proposals to y'all. And those would be permanent reallocations for the rest of the quadrennial, not just supplemental requests. Cool. I will yield my time. Thank you. Unless if there's any questions. Cool. Sorry for the long report. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up.
Thank you so much. Glad to hear the elections went well. With that, we have communications received. Are there any communications received, Joey?
The only communications, one is the supplemental funding that you all will see the request next week. In addition to what Brady alluded to, some communication regarding the request that will come from ACW. So he hasn't submitted it yet, but so there will be hypothetically two. Then the only other communication, and you can see it already in the agenda, was just the clarification on what you all see as the proposed base funding allocations based on Pat's presentation last week. So there was the adjustment amounts we saw, but what would be the new base funding allocation for each of those areas. So we did receive the communication to verify, yes, those dollar figures are correct with each one of those. But other than that, that's all we received.
And those are the dollar figures on the agenda?
Yep. And I'll give more context when we get to that, just so you all know what you are deliberating and discussing and potentially motioning.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, with that, I'd like to open the floor for public comment. If anybody would like to go ahead and make a comment, now's the time.
I have one.
Yes, Joey.
Actually, two. One, congratulations and welcome, Nicholas. Excited to have you joining S&A next year, and also glad you're able to pop in and kind of observe with our meetings this quarter, so you at least have a little bit of an idea of what you're getting into. You can always go and watch. All our meetings are recorded for many years back if you want to watch them. But the other one, separate from that, is just a plug. In addition to the general ASCW elections that concluded last week, there was a call for special elections for our student senator positions, specifically because we had several elected student senator positions that we didn't have candidates for. And so we extended the filing for those positions. It is still open through tomorrow at 5 p.m. And so if you all know of any individuals who might be interested, please strongly encourage them. It'll be a very quick turnaround. Applications through 5 p.m. tomorrow, and then there'll be a special election taking place next week, Monday through Friday. So 2 plugs. 1, people to solicit and say they're interested to serve as student senators. They are paid positions, 5 hours a week within that. And then also, as a heads up, there will be a special election coming out next week, and you will hear my plug to make sure you vote for that next week as well. So that's what I got.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joey. If there's no other public comments, we can move on to our new business. If there's no objections.
I just wanted to say real quick, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, Joey, for welcoming me. And I'm really here just to learn and really get a concept of what goes on in the S&A committee.
Thank you so much. Super glad to have you here. Then with that, we'll move on to new business. We have, what is it, 6 funding reviews for today. Starting with the Office of Student Involvement. Should I have Ray? Joey, do you mind sharing that? Or yeah. I did want to say I really liked the tables on here. That was nice.
Can you all see the review on here?
Mhm.
I'll zoom in. I saw the look. Just want to make sure my screen was sharing. And I'll jump to the tables that you referenced, Alice, for the recording. Otherwise, any specific parts you all want me to pull up, either to ask questions, raise concerns. Otherwise, if you're all good and this looks great.
I didn't have really any questions for this one. Does anyone on the committee? Seeing head shakes around the room. I do want to comment that I really appreciate their goals here at the end towards increasing their program. Hopefully that can, there can be a rise in more student leaders as time goes on. It's very important.
I think the only thing I would highlight for you all, since this is one of the ones we're going to be discussing with the base funding adjustment coming up, is just to show in here one of the pieces that they reference in here. If I scroll to the top, and Pat alluded to this last week, where is it in here? Where it references part of an interim associate dean position, and previously the full-time associate dean. This position is no longer continuing in the reorg structure. And so that's part of what is paid for by the sub fee that will not be reimbursed by S&A, because that position is no longer going to exist. So we do not need to provide funding for a position that they're not going to have anymore. So. But the other part, when we look at it, is the student club and engagement coordinator right here. This is the position that is partially funded by S&A currently and partially funded by the sub fee that would become fully funded by S&A in the proposal. So just to highlight that. But I can move on to the next program review if no one has any other questions or concerns.
No questions here. I saw a couple head shakes. No hands going up. Thank you for that clarification, though. That helps to see how it relates to Mr. Pat's proposal.
Woo, graphs. Yeah. And they said that they put it in the proper spot because they said it's included at the end of the document because there's so many graphs and information. Woo, yeah. I like that they provided a lot of detail.
You know that we're a weird body when we're excited by graphs. I'm 100% totally fine with this.
I'm all for the visualizations as well. It helps a lot to just look at it and see what's going on. I did notice they are that on number 11, they say they would like to see the overall amount participation increase. Do you think that's related to our retention concerns, Joey?
In terms of why they're hoping to see that or why we haven't seen it?
Why we haven't seen it, I guess?
I think some of it of what we've seen is, and I don't want to speak on their behalf, so I think this is a great question that we can submit to them as Jessica's making the notes. Being in this role and being present with Source for a while, I think one of the things that we have seen is one, there's a lot of disciplines that they're talking about in departments who have traditionally been a part of Source and who do that strongly. I think sometimes it's hard to get others to see how they could fit into Source, but they've done a great job of increasing this over the years. I think COVID really put a hamper on it, though. It impacted how we did Source. In fact, we didn't do Source for a period of time, and then we had to scale back certain pieces compared to what it was. And so I think some of this is also trying to build back up to what it is, because most of you all as students would not have been here necessarily and seen the large scale size that Source was pre-COVID, with the 2-day massive pieces. The whole circ is taken over, each of the areas and stuff. And so some of this I think is what they were already going for and trying to just get every department to be involved, which not everyone was. There's good representation from all the colleges. And then some of it, I think, is just building back to try and get to where they were before. And not only did COVID, there's also been changes in staffing and administration and things with undergraduate research, which I know plays a factor too. But that would be my take as an outsider who's been a part of this and who has judged Source before.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Yeah, I know myself and a lot of colleagues are going to be presenting this year. Looking forward to it. I don't have any questions other than that for them. Does anyone else? No questions? All right, we can move on to pep band.
For question 6, they said once personnel is set, a memo will be sent with details to clarify the specifics of this question. I'm assuming that is, I don't know how detailed they are planning to be, but it says 38 to 40 members. I don't know if they're like, yep, we hit that number, or if they did a little more detail. So I guess, do we know, have they followed up now that, okay, well, I guess we would ask them, hey, how's it going? You got that memo?
Yeah, we have not received anything since the program review was turned in back. And I don't remember if they turned theirs in December or that first week in January, but we have not received a memo, so we can definitely follow back up. And I guess I will say and point out, it looks like based on their answer to it, when it says who utilizes the program, they're really saying who all is in the pet band. I know this is a tough one and this has come up on the marching band. It's hard to say who utilizes because obviously when they're playing at games, they don't have a way of getting the demographics of who's in attendance, whether it's students, community members, faculty, or staff. So it looks like that's how they're answering both of those questions. But I think to state it, obviously individuals who are at those events are utilizing the program from the benefit of the service.
Jared.
So, based upon their answer to number 9, which is that proposed deductions from fiscal year 22 would impact the payment allocation for student participants, is this program paying students as employees? Joey, do you happen to know if they do that?
I would look back to make sure and pull up, and since I'm sharing my screen, I can't pull up on the funding report. If I remember correctly, I believe it does, because I think it pays them for the events that they are playing at, which is where I think that means there'd be a decrease in the number of events. And so for a basketball game, the members who do get some sort of payment within it.
Is this something that's historically come from S&A? Because I feel like if this is a program that supports the athletics department, maybe the athletics department should be covering that.
Yeah, it has historically been funded by S&A for at least the last, I mean, we can look back on the website and you can see back for quite a while, but at least for the last 15 years that I know of, or at least the last 10 I was directly here, and then at least the funding cycle before that too.
I saw Sean's hand go up.
Yeah, maybe to reiterate a little bit, and I don't know as much history as Joey does with CW, but as far as I understand and know, working pretty close with CW Athletics has not funded the pet band in the, ever before. So this is a kind of a separate thing that they either request funding from here or do it through music department or whatever that might be. But I think for the most part, it's been through historically through S&A.
Okay, well, that's just my one question on that.
Great question.
Any other thoughts for pet band? If there's no other questions, then we will move on to publicity.
Sorry to interrupt you real quick. Joey, could you possibly review the allotments for these proposals real quick?
For the program reviews we're going over?
Correct.
Yes, I can. Fortunately, I have this pulled up right here.
Fantastic.
And look out. So we'll go back from the beginning of it. And they're not necessarily the order we just did. Yeah. So Office of Student Involvement receives 148,000. Office of Undergraduate Research, 54,000. Pet Band receives 21,000. We're moving right now to Publicity Center. So publicity, and I'll just say the others. Publicity Center receives 264,000. I'm looking at the right line. And then the next one that we are looking at afterwards, Pulse and the Art Gallery. So I'm going to scroll down here. So Pulse received 20,500, and the Art Gallery, Sarah Spurgeon Gallery, receives 31,950. Great question.
Cool. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you there, Alice. I was just looking for context.
No worries.
I had it ready since you asked last time. Now I just have it sitting in the background, so I don't have to search.
And I will ask next time too.
I appreciate it.
With that, are we moving to Publicity Center? If there's no objections. It looks like Miss Lola, who's here with us, filled this out. Thank you so much. I didn't have a whole lot of questions on it, but I did want to point out answer 4 says we are the only S&A department specifically funded to promote creative services and their activities, which I found very interesting. I'll be honest, I'm not very familiar with our publicity center.
I will say that's one of the benefits of these program reviews is it gives you all an insight into these different services. I mean, I know Lola's here, so if you all have a question, we can ask directly. But I mean, with what that's alluding to is they're funded to be able to do the publicity, the design, the marketing, the social media video, really for all of our S&A base funded units. That's what they're there is to assist in supporting that, as well as other student activities and pieces, which again are funded by S&A. So our clubs, our student government, all of that.
I just want to point out that given their specific circumstances for how they operate and who they affect, I think they did a really good job illustrating, giving all the information that they really could based off of what they do this for, who's affected, kind of a little bit of their outreach since they are a publicity center, who all could be seeing them on a day-to-day. I think they gave probably the best analytics that they could, given the huge net that they have.
Jared.
So on question 7, it says starting winter quarter, we will track ticket sales. How much of this S&A fee is going to Ticketmaster? I'm kidding.
We don't use Ticketmaster. I was trying to find where in their answer did they say that, so I could highlight it for.
No, I'm just messing with you all. It's fine.
Thanks for lightening the mood with, this is what, third to last meeting of the quarter?
Yeah, you gotta have a little fun with this sometimes. Anyway, that's all I got.
I really appreciate the metrics on here. I just want to add that. I don't have any questions. Does anyone else?
The only thing I would say is, again, similar to what I did with student involvement, this is one going, whoops, almost clicked the wrong button. This is one of the ones that we're looking at the adjustment. Due to the funding of some professional staff positions, 114,000 that was by sub fee. I know I just went over, and for Jared and others who like the numbers, the publicity center on here received 264,000 for base funding to offset this. It's not going to increase for Lola anything. It just solidifies that it's all coming from S&A, changes that to 352,000. So. But that's all I got. I'll jump to the next one.
Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Some big numbers moving around. With that, we're on to Pulse with by Mr. Francesco. I found this one really straightforward. I appreciate the explanation that they gave us. I don't think I have any questions. Does anyone on the committee? I do see on number 11, you don't have to pull it back up, Joey, but I do see on number 11 that they mention concerns about further enrollment decline. But I really appreciate that they took that into consideration and realized that they can't realistically project because of that. And just the realism is nice. Jared.
Don't worry, this was not a joke. I do appreciate that they did reduce the number of pulse issues from 2 to 1 per quarter. It tells me that they're being very budget conscious.
Right. We're in the time where we need to be, it seems. Well, if there's no objections, we can continue on to Sarah Spurgeon Art Gallery. Did anyone have any questions about this review?
On question 7, they said they're looking at a new attendance form to be used in 23 to better understand traffic flow and determine if gallery hours are serving everyone's needs. I guess a follow-up would be for next year, how that form turned out, or maybe something that we can do now is just to see the form, just to see what all they're doing to improve or like just to see the difference in forms, add a little more clarity. But I think the more important thing is checking in next year to see what they found using their new forms.
Great catch. That's a great point. Joey, do you know if they've
I don't know. I was just thinking that when you brought that up, Brandon, I was like, I know they were aiming to. I don't know if they've rolled it out yet. I think it's a great follow-up. All of these are great service activities. So I was going to plug this, but I realized all of them are. If you all as students don't know about this, it is up in the art building. It's open during the hours that they post, but free to walk in, just check out the art, as they mentioned. A lot of times visiting artists, they'll have student work and pieces in there. So if you are not familiar with the art building on campus, and you were in Ellensburg, you should definitely go check it out. Not only the art gallery, but they have a lot of art of students hanging around the building that changes regularly. That's my plug.
Honestly, where is that building?
So it's actually in the middle of campus. And so if you're familiar with the university campus, it's right across the street from Nicholson Pavilion, and you have Randall and Michelson connected together with the breeze through walkway. And so one side is the Family Consumer Sciences and the Early Childhood Learning Center, the Rainbow Room and all that. The other building on the other side is all the art building. When you walk in, it will be very obvious which building is which when you're in the hallways.
Oh, okay, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm always in Samuelson and just don't often.
You just gotta migrate a little north up campus.
Yeah. With that, I don't have any questions for them. I really appreciate the answer to number 5. That was really nice to see. The increase in exhibits from diverse communities. Are there any, Jared?
So I'm definitely not objecting to this proposal at all. I'm just a little curious as to where their funding is actually going, because they mentioned that they're having, gallery shows, but I'm not very expert on the economics of that. Are we paying people to host their art? Are they paying us? Is it just a space that we are staffing using man hours and labor to host, people's art? How does that all play out?
That is an excellent question, Jared. And I'm pulling it up. I know this is one, since you joined us partway through, I'm pulling up their annual financial report from last year to kind of show you exactly what that is. And so if we come down here, really you can see the money that comes in. There's a small part that goes to pay for part of the professional staff salary who oversees the gallery. It also pays for student workers who are working at the desk. And then the goods and services are really for the actual space, the upkeep of it, not necessarily for the artists. I mean, because again, you can tell there's not really funding in here to pay the artists to present on that side. So,
But they also have no bad debt.
yep.
All right. Well, that answers my question. Thank you.
With that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing since I think that was our last program review.
Mhm. Thank you so much.
I'm going to maybe stop. There it goes. Stop sharing.
And then our next order of business is old business. The S&A fee and sub alignment proposal that we heard last week. For that, we have deliberation time, right, Joey?
Yes, we do. And I was trying to pull up the agenda on my side so I can tell the exact. Yeah. So at this point, really what it is for you all, things are freezing on my side. So hold on. There we go. You all to deliberate on what was discussed last week. To summarize, really what Pat came in to propose is they're trying to untangle, and I won't go into this whole presentation, but untangle things that were split funded by S&A and sub fee over the years that grew. And so the simplest way is they want to remove the S&A funding specifically from student union operations and sub engineering. That is S&A money that we would stop funding annually. That would be fully funded by the sub fee. And to offset that, the sub fee would stop going towards fund KSWU publicity. Can you all still hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you put
you
out
just
the
broke up
very
for a
end
second.
there.
I'm turning this headset off real quick. Okay. Okay.
So
Can you?
yes,
Awesome.
yeah, definitely can hear you.
Now, all of a sudden, my speakers started going like disconnected in my ear. And I'm like, that's making it really hard to focus on what I'm saying while it's telling me that. So again, it's really S&A money will be removed from student union operations and sub engineering. Sub money will be removed from campus activities, KCW publicity, and student involvement. But it's really a wash across the board. The only exception to that, which is really, I mentioned this earlier, but has already been shared, is student involvement. That funding that was from the sub paid for that associate dean. We're not going to give them S&A funding for a position that they're no longer having. And so you all will discuss what that looks like. Really, the proposal that someone would have to motion is to make the adjustments to the base funding allocations for those 6 units as what is listed on there. Meaning starting next year, student union operations would get no S&A funding, sub-engineering would get no S&A funding, campus activities would get $267,000, which is $94,000 than what they're currently getting. because again, it's an offset. So
Jared, your hand went up.
So I found a discrepancy in their math here. It actually doesn't add up as a complete wash. It costs us $6. Otherwise, I have no
in the
problem with the
accounting
proposal.
world, that's a wash.
Yeah. So I actually have no problem with this. It just seems to be moving around buckets and reducing the number of buckets that are being used. So fundamentally, I don't object to this idea at all, but I'm not going to call the question yet because we have other people that should weigh in.
Brady?
Alice, are you taking motions at this time?
I am happily accepting motions on this matter.
Cool. Then keeping in mind that we have a discussion section after I make this motion, I will move to take the recommended course of actions and remove funding from circ operations and circ engineering and increase the funding of campus activities, KCW, Publicity Center, and student involvement by the amounts listed on our agenda. Joey, does that cover everything? Okay.
And I second.
Wonderful. We got a motion from Brady and a second from Jared. I completely agree with this. This is moving around buckets, as you said. Joey.
One of the things, and this is me just from the S&A standpoint to add in that I don't recall Pat saying, but I've also been having conversations about this since fall quarter. So I apologize if you did. But one of the things that's also important is why we're trying to untangle is because the fees are paid by different student populations. The sub fee is only paid for by Ellensburg-based students because they're the ones who can access the services, which is also part of why we wanted to try and untangle this. S&A fee is paid for by all students, whether they're in Ellensburg, whether they're centers, or whether they're an online student. And so really trying to be mindful that students are paying fees towards services that they have some impact or access to. So that's also an additional piece of not wanting the S&A fee to be paying for student union operations, because that student's paying for part of the building operations that they can't access and service. So there's it's moving money around, but it's also an intentionality behind what money is going where within those two.
Thank you very much, Joey. That helps a lot. I feel like Mr. Pat's proposal really covered a lot of this. I don't have anything to deliberate myself. And seeing as the motion's been made and moved.
Yeah, I would just say as a reminder, and again, you all can vote however you want, but if anyone is planning on voting in opposition or abstaining, to make sure, since it is a public meeting, to provide that stance or rationale so the rest of the committee can be aware, because that may influence others, but also so the public is aware. But if everyone's in agreement, you don't need to say and repeat what's already been said.
Oh, thank you, Miss Lola, for joining us. Have a wonderful time at the Art Awards. I think with that, then we would, if nobody plans on abstaining or voting against and wants to share those reasons, would we want to head into a vote then, if there's no objections? Seeing no objections, we will head into voting on this motion that Brady made. Everyone voting aye, please raise your hand. Got 4 ayes. Everyone voting no, please raise your hand.
I think that was all of the voting committee members.
0 no's. And with that, the motion has been approved by S&A committee to reallocate these funds. And thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you all. I will pass this along to Pat and to our CFO, Jill Clucking, so that way they're aware, they can get things set in place. And then also each of these budget managers is aware this was being proposed, so they will be made aware that it has been approved too. So thank you all.
With that, we have a last round of public comment. If there's nothing else to discuss on the proposal.
Just for public comment, which is more work related than public comment, but you can prep in advance, knowing we'll have 1 to 2 requests coming forward next week. Plan on still there being 6 program reviews. I don't have them listed since I don't have the agenda necessarily there, but we will be looking at, if you want, the scheduling center, student funds financial manager, SLICE, student union operations, sub-accounting, and sub-custodial. So if anyone wants an early jump on it before you get the agenda next week, feel free to look at those 6.
Yeah, I have it written down here on my notebook to review the next 6. And then 7 for the next one, you'd said. I suppose for public comment, I do want to reiterate there's apparently student art awards going on that Miss Lola shared with us.
I was actually just down there for Slice's Day of Action thing, which is why I was running a little bit late, and some of the art's quite good. So if you guys get a chance to go down to the Cirque, I think it's 137. It's on the bottom floor right in the middle. It's one of those big bay areas.
Yep,
But,
137 area.
Yeah, it's pretty good though. Should definitely drop by and check it out.
Well, and I think it was also shared to consider if you'd be able to join S&A committee next term. So everyone who will still be a student, please do consider that. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, thank you, Alice. And if not, encourage others. Anyone who's interested could reach out to me, and I'll keep those names, but they can also reach out to Nick in advance, Nicholas, before he steps into his VP role. For those who don't know, the VP of ACW is who helps to coordinate and move forward the recommendations to the whole board for all of the student committee appointments. There are a few that operate differently, but this is one of those. And so this also helps to make Nicholas's job a little bit easier if you all can help to recruit and advocate on behalf of the board.
It's definitely something I share with almost everyone I know. Usually the uphill battle seems to be explaining the value of the position.
You get to tell people no, and then you feel bad about it. Wait, no, that's not a positive.
We got to work on the marketing. We need Lola back.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, if there's no other public comments, then I would like to adjourn this meeting here at 5:52. 5:53.
Assuming there's no objection.
Yes, assuming there's no objections. Aren't there any objections?
I'm looking at Jared specifically.
No, I got another meeting to go to after this. This is 3 back to back.
Oh, geez.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. And I will see y'all next week.
Have a great week, everyone. See ya. Enjoy the warm weather.